And hello again, friends. I am Kevin Ironface, and my partner Jack Malcrest. We represent Team No. So we kind of fucked up. Well, I kind of fucked up last week.
It was just there were technical difficulties. We went and saw the Jungle Book last week, and we sat down to do our normal recording, and things happened. So we're going to go ahead and go do our recording of it now. We have to do it again, but it's no less fresh in our minds because it was the Jungle Book,
And it was fairly recent.
and it was fairly awesome.
It was. It was actually pretty good.
All right, so
Okay,
as
so-
usual.
The story.
Let's hit up our story lead. Now, for any one of you that has not seen The Jungle Book, you live a sheltered childhood. The story of The Jungle Book is Mowgli, our main character, as a boy is lost to his parents in the woods. A jaguar by the name of Bagheera saves him and takes him to the wolves to be raised.
I thought he was a panther.
Panther, jaguar, big black cat. I may have said the wrong thing, but you know they look a lot alike. Give me a break. Because you can have a black jaguar, but yeah, he's right, it's a panther, my mistake. Wow, I seem to not even know this story. I'm a bad person.
So
Bad.
fresh in our mind, yet we can't even name the characters, right?
Okay.
Alright, moving on.
And so he's raised in the jungle, raised by the wolves, raised with the law of the jungle, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember exactly how many years it said he's passed, but he's grown into an adolescent. He's not quite a teenager, but he's what, 12 years old, isn't it?
About, yeah.
And at this time, our villain appears, Shere Khan, who hates man because his face was burned, and is claiming that he wants Mowgli dead because man should not be in the jungle. That is our main story, and it progresses from that, how what the wolves decide to do to deal with Shere Khan, how Mowgli interacts with them. Don't want to give away too much for people who actually haven't seen it, but it does follow what I remember of the book and pretty much the old animated movie from 67, wasn't it?
Yep, 1967.
Which is amazing.
Wow, you'd be surprised when
Yeah.
you look at stuff.
But it follows pretty much that same storyline, music and all. But that...
A couple of times.
A couple of times. But that, I mean, Mowgli's encounters with the other beings, other living creatures in the jungle, they're kind of compartmentalized. Some of them don't necessarily have anything to do with each other, but it's how it progresses the story. And Mowgli's traveling through the jungle before eventually dealing with Shere Khan. I don't know if there's much more to say to that without giving away too much, but we have some important characters to talk about.
Yeah, but I really want to talk about the plot a little bit second. One thing that I really noticed last week when we watched the movie was it kind of seemed a lot of different plots being combined, as he was just about saying. There were times when it felt like, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's the innocent child versus the darkness of the jungle, or the coming-of-age story, and a lot of it seemed kind of superfluous at the time, but overall, it just seemed here and there. Of the main characters, which we all know there's a lot of them, Mowgli, I thought, did fairly well. I can't remember the guy's name, or the young boy's name. He did really well.
I believe it was his first movie, didn't they say?
Yeah, they said introducing, so it's his first movie. And he did fairly well for a boy his age. You know, probably actually like 16, but whatever. He seemed fairly stiff throughout most of the movie, but when it came to all of the emotional scenes, he did really, really well, and actually drew me into his character. And that I was actually kind of not wanting to do that because I thought it was silly to have one live action person with all of these amazing CGI characters, but he did fairly well. Of course, we also have Bagheera the panther and Baloo the bear. poor Bill Murray. He cannot get a good CGI character for the life of him.
We'll get to the
We'll get to
graphics
that.
in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get to that. There's also, of course, several others, but the main one that I usually tackle is the villain, Shere Khan. We try not to compare things to, originals if they're remakes, but this was one thing that I thought was really better than the original, was that it seemed Shere Khan had a better motive for hating Mowgli this time. His face was actually burned by man, so that actually gave a reason for him to hate them more than the original. Is like, oh, well, man's in the jungle. We can't have that.
It's just, man, because it's a man. But why? Because man!
Yeah. Man, that dangerous animal.
Shere Khan the feminist. Sorry.
Anyways, what we were also talking about last week was that he seemed more of a thug in this movie than a, classy, gentlemanly type.
Yeah.
Which I thought fit better in my opinion.
I don't quite agree, but it's not that he was the voice actor was bad. I can never pronounce his name. I am.
Idris Elba, I think.
I think that's how it's pronounced.
Like Forgive me for butchering it.
Yeah, I feel bad because I can never pronounce that right. I see him, I know the guy, but I'm like, I can't say that. I'm horrible. I can't even speak English. But in the original, Shere Khan felt like. I would think something like a Kingpin from Spider-Man. Something he felt. Yes, he was a villain, but he had class and style. His voice just made you feel like, well, I'm the bad guy, but I am doing it for decent reasons, or, I believe in my villainy. And this time around, it's not that it was a bad fit. He did really good for Shere Khan, but the voice itself made the character feel more of like I shouldn't say sociopath, a psychopath, that's the word I'm looking for. Sociopath versus a psychopath. More violent, more just prone to anger and snappy, and it works for the character. I mean, he's an animal, but I really enjoyed the original more.
Yeah, like I said, we try not to compare it to the original, but I think he actually had more motivation and seemed better equipped as a thug than a classy gentleman. I agree. I loved the original as well. I love that classy, deep, throaty voice. I am the bad guy.
And forgive us, we looked up the name for the one from 67, but I do not remember the voice actor for.
Yeah, I can't remember. I feel bad. Anyways, we did have several other minor characters that we haven't really talked about. Bagheera and Baloo don't really fall into that, except that they didn't get as much screen time as they did in the original.
And it's kind of funny, all the characters in this case straddle the line, because we were talking about how it's kind of modular, a bunch of small stories, and in each small story there is like a sort of bad guy in a couple of them, but none of the overall bad guy is still Shere Khan. And so, I mean, Kaa is a good example.
Oh, poor Kaa. Scarlett Johansson did well. I'm not denying that. She did fairly good for voice acting this, and the smoothness of her voice really played well to that. It just didn't have the conniving, snake-like aspect of it.
Yeah,
it was too much to the smoothness.
I would have felt the original, looking at the original Kaa, he still trusted me. It still worked, but he felt more, what's Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings kind of, whisper in your ear, the villain in the corner who's achieving things, rather than just a smooth-talking, smooth criminal.
God.
And the other part that disappoints me is, in the book and in the original animated movie, Kaa had more conversation with not only Mowgli, which Kaa does reveal some story, but other characters as well. But in this one, Kaa vanishes as quickly as Kaa appears. And it doesn't even quite explain it. Kaa was attacked.
Yeah. Baloo. This is when Baloo first shows up, and he deals with Ka off screen, of course. So
Yep.
we don't actually know what happens. to
Ka
him.
suffers from off-screenitis and is never seen again.
But there were a couple other minor characters that were kind of important, though. The Wolf Tribe.
The
I
Wolf
think
Tribe.
was somewhat. I don't remember them in the original being that important, but they were a lot more in this one.
Yeah, and it kind of explains the dynamic of the jungle and the Wolf Tribe. It's Mowgli's family, and like any villain, when he can't have Mowgli, he threatens his family. So that's what Shere Khan does. But they're not really important at all, other than a motivation for Mowgli. And Baloo, Bagheera, and the other one that we really need to talk about, of course, is King Louie.
Oh, yes. Yes. This is the part that made this movie go from okay to good. Christopher Walken actually sang the I Want to Be Like You. And it was hilarious.
And on top of that, this some of the characters, I thought the voice acting was a little off or could have been better. Not that I hated the voice actors, just felt they didn't fit. But Christopher Walken, this was a perfect match here. King Louie was in the books, not so much in the original animated series, they kind of lighthearted it, but he's essentially a mob lord. And Christopher Walken, you know Christopher Walken, like he's got that just perfect. So he just
I'm
perfectly
going to
fit.
give you an offer you can't refuse.
You cannot refuse. Needs more cowbell. And each of the characters did actually sing their songs. And so I thought it was like Scarlett Johansson did the Trust in Me, King Louie did I Want to Be Like You, and Bill Murray did sing most of Bare Necessities.
That was the only thing that kind of seemed off, though. Ka didn't sing the entire song. They barely sang a chord of that until the actual end of the movie.
It may have been a
credit.
cut.
Yeah, but, I mean, it basically goes, trust in me, and then shows, a little bit of the plot, and it's like, okay, well, back on to something else.
On to something else.
And
Woo!
then Baloo had the same thing where he sang a couple of lines of it until later in the movie. And then the only one who actually had a straight up full scene of him singing was Christopher Walken.
But he only sang the first verse.
Yeah, but he had a complete scene of it. Does that make sense?
That's probably because it was the main attraction. But let's jump off our characters. I think we covered them pretty well. For the most part, there's not much more to say other than their names, their voice actors, and what they do.
Yeah.
Baloo's a bear. He acts like a bear. He acts like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
But our scenery, our graphics.
Yeah, the graphics in this movie were absolutely top notch, except for Bill Murray. I felt so bad for him because just the bear just looked so horrible, especially compared to everything else. It's like you looked like you could actually reach out and touch Shere Khan or Bagheera or even King Louie, and it's just, I felt so bad.
Bill Murray, Baloo did. They tried to make him look like kind of a scruffy bear, and it felt like not as much work was put into him.
Yeah.
It just.
But overall, the scenery, the forestry, the way that all of the animations move, it's absolutely phenomenal and top notch, like I was just saying. Just a little more work needed to be done with Baloo. The ending, the credits, we actually sat down and watched the entire credits because there were several, little tiny stories going on while they were singing, the songs.
Yeah, it's good to note there's nothing after the credits, but during the credits, it is worth staying and watching and listening. It is hilarious, and that's where the full songs are played. Bill Murray did not sing his full Bare Necessities during credits, which kind of disappointed me, but Scarlett Johansson and Christopher Walken did sing their full songs during the credits.
And one more thing about Scarlett Johansson's Trust in Me, the way the art changed, and it only occurred during this song, it felt so much like a James Bond film. Trust in me. I was like, where the hell is Sean Connery?
Where's Sean Connery? Yeah. The music, I think that was kind of personal, like the way the music played with her singing it. And it was good. It was really good. But it immediately felt like a Bond film opening. And then they changed the background graphics and stuff. Felt the same way. It was like, this is a good match. This works. But during some of the songs, they've got stuff going on in the background, which is also really hilariously animated. I have to tell that there's really specifically one.
Yep.
They've got books, the book opening up and showing characters from the movie and various things. And at one point, the book opens up, and this mouse, about this size, is a good estimate, jumps off and is running around the table. Later, the book opens up to like a zoomed out Shere Khan, who's about this big. And this field mouse jumps up to him. And Shere Khan reacts exactly like a cat and goes, and like backs off and starts hissing. And it's hilarious. There was a bunch of more great stuff to watch during the credits.
Yeah, so overall, I definitely recommend this movie. It was fairly good. I know there's a lot of people complaining that it didn't seem like there needed to be a remake, but it wasn't really about rehashing the story so much as using the new technology and all the CGI to make it in a different way. And I thought that they did fairly well with that.
Besides,
so as itself, this was worth seeing.
Besides, I think a remake could have been done. It's 49 years since animated one, which is what everyone usually sees.
But they did one in the 90s that nobody really watched. And
the live action one, yeah.
Well, there was a live action one and another animated.
There was a Jungle Book 2. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We won't get into that. But anyways, we both enjoyed it. It's worth a go see. If you go see it in 3D, which is what we did, it was actually worth it. It wasn't really so much a gimmick. It felt right for this movie. The next thing we've got to cover is The Huntsman Winter War, which we went and saw today, but we will get to that in a moment. So, of course, if you enjoy our rant here, go ahead and click like. If you want to see more of the rants, go ahead and click subscribe and check out some of the other gaming and music stuff that we have on the channel. But otherwise, we'll see you next time.
See ya.